Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I actually have a fellow Aggie alum here with us, Shelly Niehaus, and she's educated, empowered, inspired podcast host. Today's talk is going to be all about marketing, social media marketing, building a brand for your company and business. And I think for a lot of the audience out there, this is going to be a really special treat. So, Shelly, welcome.
Thank you so much for having you. I love having me. I love to jam about all of these things. So I'm excited to dive into these topics.
Yeah. So start off with your story and how you came to be doing what you're doing.
Okay. Well, I started I graduated from A&M and I worked in the corporate world for a while. And then I decided I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. It just felt like that was my calling. I wanted the freedom and flexibility that a lot of entrepreneurs really crave. And so I started my first business in 2004 in the service-based industry. And I had 20 years of different businesses in three different industries in the service-based industry. And the common theme I saw was people are really good at what they do. They may be a great medical provider, they may be a great personal trainer, photographer, but they struggle with business. And they're like, oh, I just, that they don't, it's either hard for them or they weren't trained. And that was something that really came easy to me. And I loved the business side. And I found myself spending more time figuring out how to market my business than actually working in it. And I was like, well, maybe there's a common thread here. And so after, I think it was 2019, I was sitting at a mastermind and one of my colleagues finally looked at me and they're like, why are you doing this anymore? You need to be teaching people how to run their business and helping them. And that light bulb kind of went off in my head. I was like, oh, you know what? I think I could do that. And that sounds fun. And that really sounds like where I feel like I'm being called to go in the next phase of my journey. So I pivoted again and went into coaching, and I really help service-based business providers learn how to market and sell themselves in a way that's authentic and not salesy, but is leads their clients along that journey and converts them, their audience into paying clients.
Yeah, and what I really enjoy about your journey is talking to a lot of entrepreneurs. It's that they have a specific skill in photography, and now you're coaching, you're teaching people, and so kind of share your key strategies for being a solopreneur and then teaching others. What are some common pitfalls, things to avoid when making this transition?
I think personally, well, a lot of times entrepreneurs get so caught up in being the technician. They're working on their skill and whatever it is, and they don't really think about the business side of it. And so it's whether you want to do it yourself or whether you want to hire it out, you need to go through an actual thought process of making sure you're really on point with who your client is and who you're serving them and how you're showing up to help them, and developing a personal brand around that, because your unique selling proposition is you. It's how you're different from everyone else. And if you can't articulate that and connect with your ideal client, because you've got a solid understanding of who they are, it's really hard to create a marketing message around that. So we have to spend some time at the beginning doing that groundwork. It's a lot of people, it's not easy, but it's really necessary. But when you do that groundwork at the beginning and you really get clear on, who your client is, what that journey looks like, what their milestones look like, and how you can help with the transformation, and again, really articulating how you can help with the transformation and starting to build your marketing and your business around that messaging, everything you spend, all the money you spend on Facebook ads, coaching, social media platforms, you will have a much bigger ROI because you've done the work and you have a real crystal clear messaging. So that's really where I see a lot of people just kind of start initially, is they just jump into the shiny object syndrome and start throwing stuff up on social media, hiring people, throwing money at Facebook ads, but they haven't done the foundational work. And so all that money is kind of just being tossed out the window because they don't have a well-aligned message, and they're not really intentional about their strategy.
Yeah, I think the more I've talked to people and heard is, kind of authenticity, and then you have a be intentional, your marketing strategy, and who's your ideal client. So you emphasize highly building email lists as marketing superpower, and we'll talk about, your 5 steps to build an effective email list. One thing it really have noticed these days is, for example, everybody's saying build an email list, but then you have platforms like Medium, Substack, and then also because I'm building a email list on ConvertKit, and so these allow you to actually create content, and so you can get like subscribers, and then kind of email subscribers are kind of like the last. So, how is that different than just having a website with an email list?
It's actually it's all the same in that you when you're out list building, you are trying to connect with your audience. I always say it's like doing business at a restaurant, whether you're on social, you're at a networking event, you're doing that initial contact with them, and you don't own that space. You don't that's rented land. So you want to make sure that you are meeting them and you're creating that initial contact, but then you're bringing them into something you actually own. And I actually have my email list built on ConvertKit, but you own that list. You can export anytime. You have all those contact information, and you can communicate with them when you want, how you want, with what you want to say, and you own that list. So whether you're initially coming out with it, you're contacting them through Substack or ConvertKit or another thing, it's getting that point of contact and then making sure that you have a way of owning that list and having that relationship going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. The more I think about it, because ConvertKit is very similar to Substack and Medium. The only thing is, ConvertKit is like, it's because like Substack and Medium, they can shut your account down or whatever. But, as long as, but like, I think like ConvertKit and like a website, these things can get shut down, but as long as you're like doing things legitimately, it's very hard to, um, so, so I love this idea. People say email list marketing is dead. It's hard to get. How do you build an effective email list and keep subscribers engaged?
Well, I think it really comes down to making sure that you're talking to them with the topics that they want to hear about. And that's always my first step in when we talk about building a list. Is one of the first things I always say is you need to be out there doing the research. You need to be leaning into the conversations that your audience is having and make sure that you know at least a few of their pain points and those desired aspiration points. Like what pain are they currently in now? What are they thinking, saying, and feeling, doing with that problem? Where do they want to go? And how do you help get them there? Because if you have those three threads connected, you can now create a lead magnet, which is a huge step to get them from social media onto your list. You basically exchange something of value in return for their email, but you're not just throwing random things out in the world to attract random people on your list. One of the analogies I always use is back in the day when the influencer marketing first started, they would give away Amazon gift cards and all these things. If you like their account, follow, subscribe to their list. Well, at the end of the day, that's attracting people that want an Amazon gift card. They may not really care about what you have to say, and they're not necessarily aligned to be your end client. So if you can make sure that you're putting out intentional bait, as I would like to call it, into the world that's really going to attract people that onto your list that actually are aligned to be in your clients, those are the people that are going to not only come to your list, but they're going to open your emails when you're sending them, because again, you're continuing to speak into the same topics and show up and serve them with value, and they're going to open them, they're going to click through, they're going to stay engaged, and hopefully be eventually converted into paying clients, because again, there's that common through line of they were interested in whatever your lead magnet was that you exchanged for their email. So that naturally led them to get onto your list to be interested in the content that you're emailing them. And that would naturally lead them into your offers. So if you have the consistency and it's aligned messaging, like we talked about at the beginning, that really will help them stay engaged and stay involved in your list.
Yeah, I really love that, and the more I'm out networking, I love networking. Well, it's always adding context, engaging communication. Moving on to authentic brand building, and so what is a personal brand in today's digital world, and provide practical steps for listeners to begin crafting their personal brands and attract their ideal clients.
Okay. Well, when you think about it, when someone usually goes to a recommendation, whether it's a local service provider or an online business, the first thing they're going to do is Google it. So I always say, Google yourself. When you Google yourself, what comes up? And the first 3 to 5 entries, that's a really strong representation of your personal brand. When someone Googles you, that's what they're going to see. And you want to make sure that those platforms, that whether it's your website, your podcast or whatever, they're in alignment and they're congruent. So they want to be in alignment with your messaging. Make sure that they are, branded, and they, I guess one example would be, you don't want to be talking about lifestyle and cooking on your Instagram account, and then you're talking about, business over here on your podcast. That when they see these 3 or 4 things come up, they're going to get really confused. Like, is she a lifestyle person? Is she a business coach? So you want to make sure there's like that congruency that goes in and it really ties them all together. Now, how you do that is, I always talk about, there's 3 main elements of a personal brand. It's your name, it's your face, and it's how you make people feel. So it's your name, your face, and how you make people feel. So your name is basically that. It's anything that it could be your logo. It is your name, but it could be your logo, your font, your type, your colors. It's basically, what I say is, all the branded material outside of your visuals, your photography. And that needs to be cohesive. It needs to be cohesive across all those different platforms, in addition to your website, so that there's that consistency and there's that through line that people see, okay, this is a consistent branding across those platforms. And then the second thing is your face. I always say one of the easiest things is, you need to have the same profile photo at any given time across all platforms. They need to see that same nice professional headshot, whether they're on your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook, your website. They need to see that. And again, the facial connection, the eye connection, that's the fastest way they're going to make that visual connection. In this highly digital world where people are scrolling and there's just so much information being thrown at them, the fastest way to make that connection is through a really quality image. So making sure that you have a nice professional headshot. And in addition to that, I really recommend a handful of branded imagery. You don't have to be running out and having a full photo session done every quarter, but having a nice amount of branded imagery really helps convey not only what you look like, but the essence of who you are. So for instance, if you're a doctor or a dermatologist, what does your office look like? What does your staff look like? What does your workspace look like? What is it like to come in for an appointment? Like, just these lifestyle images that allow people to really experience and almost put themselves in that chair or in that reception room and understand what it's going to be like. A lot of times, one of the biggest offenders I see is people are just throwing a bunch of stock imagery up, and that doesn't make the connection. There's nothing there that allows them to connect with you or your business or you as a service provider. They're just seeing a bunch of stock imagery. So it's your name, it's your face, and the last thing is how you make people feel. And this is the content that you put out in the world. This is how you make people feel. It's showing up with educational content and teaching them things, basically positioning you as that professional, the person that is able to help them. So when they do have a problem that needs to be solved, you're top of mind because you've been out there putting out content, whether it is podcast or, Instagram, YouTube videos. You're top of mind and they have that connection with you. So they're automatically going to look to you to solve that problem over somebody else that may not be investing in that personal brand. So it really is just those 3 things. It's your name, your face, how you make people feel, and making sure that's congruent across all of your online platforms.
Yeah, I love that. Moving on, because a lot of the listeners, they're busy and kind of they're building their skills or they run practices. So really they're like, yeah, social media, yeah, email list, podcast, these are all great, but I don't have time. And so you talk about efficient content creation and advocating for creating content that converts and connects. How do you do this in the most efficient way, most cheapest, simplest, easiest way, so that the people listening, they can be like, yeah, this is something I want to do, but something I don't have to like devote a full-time job to.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan of teams, VAs, That's not your highest calling to sit there and edit video or whatever. So you need to create content in a first of all, I call it my one big piece of content strategy. If you are going to create one piece of content each week or each 2 weeks, what is the easiest lift for you? I like video because then you can strip out the audio, you can take the transcript and repurpose it to a blog. So there's my preferred way is video. But if you don't want to do video, if you just want to do audio, or if you're a writer and you want to write, come up with the one thing that is your big piece of content that you're going to put out. And then that's when you are going to pay your team because you want to go off and take care of your clients. And this isn't what you need to be doing. They are going to do a content squeeze and they are going to squeeze that content dry. Again, if it's video, they're going to take that video and they're going to post it on YouTube. And then they're going to, maybe they could pull the audio out and create a podcast or some kind of an audio deliverable out of it. And then they can take that video and splice it up and make a lot of YouTube shorts and Instagram reels. And then on top of that, they can take the transcript from that and turn it into a blog or your weekly newsletter or snippets, pull out little snippets and make them captions for your social media account. So you as the person that is the content creator, you literally spent maybe 30 minutes creating one piece of content. And it's got your voice, it has your, your personal brand, your name, your face, how you make people feel. But then you have a team that literally can repurpose this content and put it on all these different channels, and you're not having to do that daily stuff. So it really can be as simple as creating one piece of content every week or two and just taking that content and bleeding it dry. With that, I also say, don't forget to repurpose your content. Just because you put it out there doesn't mean you can't reuse it in 3 to 6 months. People have very short-term memories. And if you create a video, bring it back up in 3 months and reuse that content. So I am a big, huge fan of rinsing and repeating and going back to maybe May of last year or December of last year and say, what did I put from the year before? What content did I post and how much of that can I reuse? And then what do I need to add to just enhance it?
Yeah. Yeah, love that. The other, it's all about efficiency and teams, and basically you can take one concept or idea and through different mediums and formats, basically infinite. And, a social media team, now AI can do that as well. Yeah. The other question I had for you is for the audience is how do you reconcile? So like, for example, the digital trend is like short form vertical. It used to be TikTok. Now we'll see what happens with that, but it's video, vertical, short form. And but let's say we have influencers or they want to market their business and they're like, yeah, but I I can't dance, I'm not pretty, or I'm not an athlete or celebrity. And they're like, so how do you help them reconcile this dichotomy between what's hot and what's not?
Well, first of all, I think you should always show up authentically in what's aligned to you. You can go to my Instagram feed right now and there will be no dancing and no pointing. Because my clients will be like, that's just weird and that's not her. So I think the number one thing is you have to stay true to yourself. And as long as you are being authentic and showing up whichever way is authentic to you and your brand, it's going to connect with the people that you want. So that I don't think my clients are the kinds that really want someone dancing and pointing at reels. And some people do, and that's great. So you're going to attract the people that you're actually wanting to attract. And the second thing is trends are going to come and go. Fads are going to come and go. But the one thing that's not is focus and consistency. So I always say pick a platform, pick how you want to show up. And if you stay focused and consistent, it's going to beat out the algorithm every time. Because again, you show up and you're constantly creating the content that you're aligned with, you're putting it out there, you're adding value, it will long outlast whatever trend is going at the moment.
Yeah, a follow-up question to that is how do you reconcile the dichotomy between the platforms, which are basically used to foster engagement and attract more advertisers versus content that truly like resonates, that really benefits the creator, either in terms of sales, because you'll sometimes, it's amazing, you'll see these accounts with like 1 million followers, but like revenues, I'm sure the revenues, but like versus like these smaller accounts, but like they're making 6 figures. So how do you reconcile that difference?
So I think, again, you have to look at your business and you have to decide how many your clients you need and then what that sphere of influence is for your business. Most small business providers do not need 1 million followers on Instagram to have a very successful, thriving business. And at the end of the day, a lot of those people that have 1 million followers, again, may not have the revenue to support those followers. So we really are looking more at paying clients, converting paying clients into versus just getting the numbers up or the algorithm. And the one thing that my personal engagement strategy is I go into the DMs and I start to build that relationship. I call it build your business time, but 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at lunch if you have it, and 15 minutes in the evening, or however it looks for you, go onto your social media accounts and actually engage with people in their DMs, comment, make real connections, not just a like or a thumbs up emoji, but that is what's going to generate more traction in your social media. And a lot of times those comments will then lead to a private conversation where I send them the landing page for my lead magnet because we've been talking about, oh, I might need help with this. Hey, I got a great resource for you. And I share it with them. So it's about, I always say, think of social media or online as you would in person. It's about going to that networking event and finding the 10 people that maybe you really connect with versus trying to touch every single person in the room. Get into those conversations, start developing those connections. It's a long game, but that's what's going to convert over constantly just trying to play the algorithm.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You can use the algorithm, but but don't let the algorithm use you, which I love. How can people really, and you obviously have a lot of passion and experience. So how can people learn more about you, follow you, work with you to help build and scale their businesses?
Well, I think the first start is if you liked what we've talked about today, I have a podcast called Educated, Empowered, Inspired, and we literally have so many episodes on social media, marketing strategy, email marketing. One of my most popular episodes is episode number 40. It's email marketing made easy, my simple 5-step strategy. So if you're just and I really do focus with the beginner or more beginner email marketer in mind. This is for people who may not even have a list, or they know they have a list, but they're not using it effectively. So all of those things, we just really talk about those different types of marketing tips and really about building a brand, using social media to grow your audience, and then using your list to connect them with them and take them into paying clients. So all that is my podcast, Educated, Empowered, Inspired. And then my website is shellyniehaus.com, and you can go there and get more free resources as well as connect with me and all the things.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. And thanks so much. And for all the audience, be sure to give Shelly a like and follow on social media. And with that, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you. It's been great